Hey, what's going on, guys? With the Crown Tundra being out, I figured we could dissect each of the new legendaries brought forth within this update. Throughout this video, we will go over their Pokedex entries, their abilities, their stats, some notable attacks they get access to, etc. I'm still working through the Crown Tundra at the moment and would like to make a review video going over it when I'm finished. Now, unfortunately for me, I'm a poor sap who only has a Switch Lite, so our very own Barry Bandit was gracious enough to provide me with some of his gameplay for the background footage of this video. So definitely thanks to Barry for that, and make sure to check out his YouTube channel linked in the description. That being said, let's check out some new Pokemon. Alright, so let's kick things off with the first of two Reggies, that being Reggie Leckie. We have seen Reggie Leckie in previous trailers, however now we have some more information about it that I think is quite interesting. Reggie Leckie is a mono-electric type and is described as essentially being the embodiment of electricity. Removing the rings on its body will unleash its latent power. It's also said to be powerful enough to power all of Galar. It gets access to the ability Transistor, which powers up all of its electric type attacks, on top of the usual stab bonus. This ends up giving it a bonus similar to adaptability. Its base stat total is 580 with a whopping 200 base speed. At level 100, this thing has a speed stat of 548, provided you're utilizing a beneficial nature with max EVs. Also, just for reference, Deoxys in its speed form has a base speed of 180, so yeah, this thing's the fastest Pokemon by quite a bit. Its other stats are honestly kind of subpar, with its attack and special attack being somewhat respectable. Its defenses, however, are abysmal. That being said, with its high speed, it can take advantage of moves like Volt Switch, Electro Ball, perhaps even Rapid Spin should you want a fast Hazard Remover, etc. Unfortunately, with Hidden Power not being available this gen, it kind of hurt Reggie Leckie because I could see him benefiting drastically with something like Hidden Power Ice added to his arsenal. Next, we got the second Reggie, being Reggie Draco. Now, anyone that's been a fan of my channel for some time would know that when it comes to various monsters of the different monster taming games we cover, I'm always loving anything dragon themed, so it should come as no surprise that this one's my favorite of the two. Reggie Draco is said to be comprised of various crystals containing draconic energy. It's said to have the power of every dragon Pokemon. Furthermore, it's theorized in academia that its arms were once an extinct dragon Pokemon, though this theory has yet to be proven. It gets access to Dragon's Maw, which is essentially the dragon equivalent to its counterpart's ability, boosting its dragon type attacks. Its base stat total, unsurprisingly, is also 580, with all of its stats being identical to Reggie Leckie with the exception of speed and HP, which are sort of flipped. Now, this is a little strange in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, he caps out at 604, which is great, but his defenses are very low. Now, that being said, we'll have to see how it plays out, given that something like Chansey has a very crappy physical defense, but its massive HP stat helps out with that. Just looking on Cerebi, it doesn't seem to get access to a healing move, which is disappointing, but it does get access to Dragon Dance, which could make for a very interesting tank sweeper. Next up, we have two never-before-seen legendaries, and the first being Glacier. This mono ice type is said to emit intense cold from its hooves, and is a rather belligerent Pokemon, taking what it wants by force using its tremendous physical strength. The ice covering its face is said to be 100 times stronger than Diamond. It gets access to an ability called Chilly Nay, which essentially is just a fancy Moxie. When he knocks out a foe, his attack goes up by one stage. Its base stat totals 580, with speed being very low, but it having a high attack, defense, and respectable special defense and HP stats. It gets access to a ton of great moves such as Icicle Crash, Outrage, Swords Dance, Close Combat, High Horsepower, Mega Horn, etc. This thing has a wide variety of coverage, though the ice type isn't exactly the best when you're a tank, so this will be an interesting case. Next up, we have the formerly mentioned counterpart, that being Spectra, a ghost type. Now, Spectra hones all of its senses with the exception of one, its sight. Its kicks are said to be so devastating that they separate the soul from the body. As it dashes through the night, Spectra absorbs the life force of sleeping creatures. It craves silence and solitude. So yeah, basically this is a cool murderous one. It gets access to Grim Neigh, which is the equivalent to its counterpart's ability. However, it raises special attack upon knocking out a foe instead of physical attack. I mean, Pyroar would have loved this. Its base stat total is 580, with it having reorganized stats from the previous horse, this time with a very high special attack and speed. Its moveset unfortunately isn't as quite diverse. It does get access to some notable special moves such as Shadow Ball, Dark Pulse, Hex if you're running a status-based team and want to use them as a late game sweeper. He also gets access to Calm Mind and Nasty Plot for boosting purposes, and Haze to stop enemy boosting. Okay, so now the last Pokemon species that we're going to be talking about is Calirex, although we do have its forms as well as the Galerion birds to get through, so we're not done here quite yet. Now, Calirex is said to be the king of Galar in ancient times, and has the capacity to heal and bless. Its ability is Unnerve, which, if you don't know, prevents the foe from eating berries while Calirex is active. This standard form is actually quite weak, as it only has a 500 base stat total, with 100 in HP and 80 in the rest. Not very good by legendary standards. It's almost like a discount Mew. It does have two forms, however, the first of which is the Ice Rider form, and it gets access to essentially both Calirex and Glacier's abilities. The ability is called Unnerve Chilling Neigh, which unsurprisingly does both of the abilities' effects. This form of Calirex is said to show no mercy to those who get in its way, although then it says that it would heal its opponents afterwards, so which is it, Game Freak? And apparently, to top it off, it once moved an entire forest and all of its inhabitants to a new land. This particular form has a base stat of 680, and its stats seem to be essentially a buffed version of the Ice Horse in question. It gets access to a combination of both Pokemon's movesets with an interesting attack called Glacial Lance added to the mix as well. This attack is simply just a high-powered Ice-type attack with no secondary effect. The other form, of course, is a combination between Calirex and Spectra. This form gets access to, once again, a combination ability called Unnerve Grimneigh, and similarly a combination of the two abilities into one. Its base stat totals are also reminiscent of a buffed Spectra. It gets access to a new move called Spectral Barrage, which is conversely a high-powered Ghost-type attack with no additional effect. Its Pokedex entry delineates that despite its ghostly appearance, it at one point bonded with Calirex to bring green to the wastelands, and given its power to see both past and future, it saved the creatures of the forest from a meteor strike. Alright, so on to the Galerion birds. These ones will go pretty quickly. So first up's Galerion Articuno. This is a psychic flying type and is described as having feather-like blades composed of psychic energy. This beast can fire beams that immobilize its enemies as though they were frozen solid. Its ability is competitive, which raises the special attack stat by 2 stages when Articuno's had one of its other stats lowered. It has a base stat total of 580 with an emphasis on special attack and pretty well-rounded stats overall. Zapdos' Galerion form is a fighting flying type, which is really interesting, being the same typing as Hawlucha. It's described as a very fast creature running at speeds upwards of 180 miles per hour, and in doing such, its feathers are said to make a crackling sound similar to lightning, hence its name Zapdos, despite the lack of the electric type. It gets access to Defiant, which increases its attack by 2 stages when it receives a stat drop from an enemy. Its base stat total, of course, is 580, with it primarily focusing on attack and speed. Now finally, we have Galerion Moltres, aka top candidate for triple typing if that ever became a thing. It is a dark flying despite its very fiery wings. However, that being said, those who are foolish enough to challenge Moltres will be scorched by its sinister wings, which is what inspired the name Moltres to begin with. Its ability is unique from the other two in that it's Berserk, which sharply raises the special attack when it takes a hit that lowers its health below 50%. Galerion Moltres' base stats again add up to 580, but this time with a focus on special defense and special attack. Now, as I expected, the Crown Tundra is shaping up to be the meteor of the 2 DLCs. I still need to fully explore it before I can come to any conclusions, but I will say that a lot of the new legendaries look pretty cool. I'm not really a big fan of Calirex's design. I think he looks very strange. I feel like he should have 4 legs, but I actually do like his horse forms despite how silly people say they look. But on that note, if you guys did enjoy the video, make sure to like and subscribe for more monstertainment content. You can check out my Twitter, Discord, and Patreon, all links in the description. Until next time, peace.